Hello everyone and welcome to another Directions Mag Geospatial webinar, today sponsored by our friends at G73. I'm Barbara Duke, Managing Editor here at Directions Magazine, joined by our webinar producer Lynette Qualia. We hope that you will stop by directionsmag.com for the latest geospatial news, articles, podcasts, and of course more webinars. We are excited to have Jeff and Larry with us today to talk about location data, and specifically for our telecom industry. And Mark, over to you to introduce the team and give us a little more information.
Okay, thank you so much. And thank you everyone for attending today. We very much appreciate you taking some time out of your day to learn a little bit more about location data for the telecom industry. I'm going to briefly introduce today's presenters. First is Larry Martin. Larry is the president of G73 Data Solutions and was president of the Gadberry Group when it evolved to become G73 Data Solutions after joining the Remax company family of brands. Larry has an extensive history in all things location data and has really led Gadberry and now G73's efforts for, probably over 20 years at this point. Also with us today is Jeff Lane. Jeff is a senior solutions consultant at G73 and has really spearheaded all of our relationships with telecom carriers, wireless internet service providers, and many related companies to help them implement location data solutions to expand their broadband offerings, especially as the U.S. government has funded so many efforts to expand broadband accessibility. So with that hands today, again, thank you for your time, and I will turn it over to Larry.
Thank you, Mark. Well, first, on behalf of the G73 team, thank you for coming to the webinar today. I also want to give a shout out to Mark at Fortune Marketing and for our friends at Directions Magazine for helping us put this on. G73 Data Solutions, formerly Gadberry Group, is a location intelligence data and technology provider. We started our business in 1999, and our mission was to create world-class data and technology for our clients and for our data partners, specifically in the mapping and location industry. And while you may not recognize the name Gadberry Group, or now G73, for over 20 years we've been quietly powering the world's premier location platforms, both with addressing information and location information. Little background, in 2015, as it relates to broadband specifically, in 2015, one of our clients, Windstream, asked us to help them as they were pursuing the original Connect America Fund initiative. Since that time, we've helped them and a growing number of telecommunication clients successfully plan, bid, and implement strategies to deploy their broadband offerings in the areas that they want. And based on the work that we did with Windstream for that original CAF initiative, we believe that the very first broadband fabric was created. And today, our data and technology are supporting literally billions of dollars for CAF, CAF 2A, and for RDOF. Mark mentioned it, it's true that there's an awful lot of investment being made to bridge the digital divide in the US, and there's a growing number of data providers that are bringing their products and solutions into the broadband space. However, we believe that G73 brings unique offerings, and I'm going to give you 3 reasons why we believe that's true. First of all, comprehensiveness. So when you're looking for data to help assess coverage area for areas that you have won, you're going to have the most comprehensive data possible. G73 has been doing this for over 2 decades. We have the largest addressing and location data set in the US. We call that foundational offering the Spatial Reference Framework. And it is created using over 20 unique sources and forms of addressing material. Of those sources that we use to create that offering, 90% of that data is coming from commercial sources. Now that can be contrasted with other offerings in the market where the majority of that content is public or open source material. And that's a very important differentiation. Our data providers, those that contribute to our solution, are longtime commercial data providers, companies that have very large investments and contractual commitments to build and maintain high quality offerings. In other words, when it comes to the content that we use, we want sources who have a contractual commitment to continuous improvement. So comprehensive. The other thing that I think is very important when you're considering who you want to partner with for data is making sure that that data isn't isolated, that it is connected. For every address record that we're going to provide, we also connect a variety of additional data. We have an address confidence score that helps you know how you might want to use a particular record. Geographic coordinates, obviously, lats and lawns, and parcel and property characteristics, all of which are very important in helping you assess how you want to plan and deploy in your particular coverage areas. The last point that I'll make is commercial. One of the most challenging aspects of acquiring data, as you probably already know, is not just getting the data, but getting the proper rights to the data to be able to use it in the way that you need. Our solutions and our broadband offering that Jeff will talk about shortly is 100% G73 intellectual property. And that means that we have complete licensing flexibility. We're not beholden to third parties that can restrict our use and therefore our clients' use. Things like redistribution, obviously, very important. In just the last minute that I have, I want to talk about not only the offering that we have today, but what we're really excited about in terms of future offerings. In late 2020, Gadberry Group was acquired by Remax, and we became one of several companies in the Remax family of companies. And that happened because Remax was a very large client of ours, but because they saw a great opportunity, great synergies between Gadberry Group as a data company and Remax, specifically the ability to bring some very unique content to our offerings. Consider this: every 7.5 minutes in the US, Remax collects almost 1 billion records from over 500 real estate pipelines. In those pipelines, we have the opportunity to see, and we can utilize signals for address data, location data, and property characteristics. Those signals provide us the ability to validate, correct, and to discover new addresses and new location. And we believe that that makes G73 Data Solutions absolutely unique in terms of our reach and our ability to grow our data. So that's an introduction. I'm excited to be able to pass the baton to a team member.
Thank you so much, Larry. Thank you, Larry, for the introduction. As Larry was mentioning, some of our primary sources of data and the reference framework that we use, I wanted to highlight the 4 areas that we really help telcos and broadband service providers utilize that data. The first is really in network design and network prioritization, using the extremely precise address standardization and structure level geocodes to help telcos know where to build next. Second to that, and really akin, is this widely expanding universe of government reporting and funding support initiatives. These are programs like Connect America Fund, Rural Development Opportunity Fund, as well as state and local programs that are popping up every day. Each one of those comes with their own set of rigor to be able to achieve funding, as well as requirements that are deeply bound in geospatial activities, like understanding where addresses reside on the planet. The third portion that we'll delve into a little bit, we'll introduce a new data set in conjunction with our spatial reference framework called microbuild. And what that's doing is helping operations and marketing teams improve upon their targeted marketing campaigns, as well as understanding really what is the demographic makeup in some of these specific areas. And then lastly, as these programs appeal to companies of all sizes, G73 really, the fourth way that we help is we're great partners for GIS and data science. We can do a lot of heavy lifting for a mid to small organization that doesn't have the resources of some of the larger broadband providers. So I want to take a look at really quick, just an example of how these broadband serviceable locations kind of manifest themselves in the wild. Again, many of you may be familiar with this program, the Rural Development Opportunity Fund, or RDOF. RDOF, now aging slightly, is one of the most recent programs where funding was allocated to very rural areas. And what this image really shows is how our data and some other forms of data stack up against some of the FCC modeled location counts. RDOF specifically targets about 57,000 census block groups that are the most difficult to serve across the United States. These would be locales that would be considered rural to remote in many cases. And what we see is, obviously, with the purple and blue lines at the top of the graph that represent all addresses and all structures, these represent the mass group of candidates available to be considered BSLs. What the red line indicates is the FCC modeled number of CAM modeled locations. And what we found with through the experience we have with our current clients and through our research is that this data that the FCC uses is very often inaccurate. It understates locations in the newest, most recently built areas or areas of high density, areas with multi-unit housing, and it may overstate locations in some of the further rural reaching areas. The green line on the graph would be non-addressable BSLs. To visualize that, we're going to take a look at one example on the ground of our spatial reference framework that really just hits home on kind of all of the facets. So now you're going to be looking at a screen that you'll see a lot of blue dots and a lot of red dots. The blue pins are addressable material, our SRF address universe. You'll notice that they're located spatially on top of structures, and they account for about 90% of the structures in this image. The second type of data that you're displaying here is our SRF structure base. This structure base is supplemental to our address file, and it helps us identify non-addressable structures, or structures that may not carry a traditional USPS designation. What's important to note about this image is that we're looking at a trailer park. This is a series of 250 manufactured homes across a single parcel in Colorado Springs. And why that single parcel is important is that parcels generally carry a single situs address. And across much of the country, the ability to identify secondary addresses like what you see here is a huge challenge. It also represents the delta between much of what the FCC and other forms of data are able to provide versus what G73 can provide. This single situs address, if you were just to consider that, would be missing 249 locations, of which that is opportunity cost loss. That is also a certain amount of risk being acquired by the ISP. If you participated in a program and you didn't identify these locations, you could be held accountable for that. All right, before we transition, we're going to talk next a bit about demographics. Our demographic offering is called MicroBuild, and it's our recommended offering for understanding accurate geodemographics, really to support marketing efforts, but also to support planning and site analysis. So MicroBuild is a geodemographic product, meaning it represents certain census geographies. It's really simple and easy to connect. Consider it a view of a private census. So it's standardized and normalized against traditional census attributes. But however, unlike the census, which really starts with a very small sample size, around less than 3%, our MicroBuild is built with a sample size well over 90%. What that means is that the fidelity of the data that we use for MicroBuild is very high. And so while the census is directionally accurate, our MicroBuild product is really much more precise, a much more precise representation. And it's been in market for over a decade and a half. What we'll show here in a moment is it relates extremely well to census geographies that you're already familiar with, connecting to CAF2A and RDOF blocks using a 15-digit census block ID. And ultimately, it's a lower entry point into obtaining household level demographics. So its affordability, its ability to allow you to get into market quicker is a huge benefit for a turnkey solution. So let's take a look at a few images. All right, this first image is a representation in King and Queen County, Virginia, where we're seeing a series of awarded CAF2A census block groups. What we've done here on the right image is we have enriched that with metrics on income for our MicroBuild product. Note the granularity within the image on the right. We're able to discern differentiation from the larger area to these smaller geographic areas. And it's very easy to tell that the area is not homogeneous. Understanding these types of precise data elements will help you to effectively target certain areas, maybe based on technology, maybe based on consumer type. Let's take a look at another image. Again, the same area, only this time something I'm often asked about is the presence of children for any given census block. Children very often are some of the largest consumers of broadband in the household. And so messaging, imagery, marketing tactics change with households of this type of demographic group. Again, here we can see that even versus income, the presence of children changes this audience's buying behavior dramatically. And so moving forward and kind of just to start wrapping up so we can get to some questions, what we'd like to offer is if you're interested in understanding what data is available in your footprint, reach out to us after this call or to the follow-up email after this, and we'd love to set up a time to run what we call a location health report. A location health report is a free consultation to explore your given service area, whether you want to understand what a CAF2A series or footprint looks like, an RDOF area, or any other state and local municipality. We provide a hands-on consultative touch to give you a little bit of intelligence and get you on the way to understanding the data in your area. So with that, I think we're going to field some questions. I'll pass it back over to Mark and Lynette.
Great. Thank you so much. Great information and lots of cool stuff there. So, gentlemen, we do have a few questions for you. So, Jeff, you're first. Someone would like to know, what does SRF mean?
SRF stands for Spatial Reference Framework. So our database interconnects multiple data elements, including address, structure, and property. And really that is the framework that we are able to provide. So we have a larger data graph that connects other data elements, but the database that we provide is meant to be referential.
Great. A question for Larry. Do you provide data for researchers for free?
We do provide data for researchers. In most cases, it is a fee-based license. We have in the past supported some educational and other nonprofit uses, but for the most part, the license to our data is fee-based.
Okay, great. And then the question that we get very often, Jeff, is do you have the same level of accuracy for, say, Alaska?
Interestingly enough, our data is treated nationally with similar treatment. So the data that we provide has a similar format, feel across the entire United States. So yes, absolutely.
And then the question has come in also about other countries' data being provided.
I'll go ahead and grab that. Right now, SRF is being built for the continental United States, and that is our current scope.
All right. Next question for you is, do you have detailed building footprints, detailing number of units, building heights, and ownership information? And if so, what is that coverage? That's for you, Jeff.
I'll take
Larry,
that.
do you want to go ahead and see?
Oh, Larry's got that one.
Sure,
Okay.
absolutely. The answer is yes. We are using multiple forms of structure data or building footprint data, and for those footprints or for those structure polygons, we have a number of attributes beyond the attributes that come with the footprints themselves. We also connect those building footprints with other forms of data that allow us to provide even further attribution about the structure, the parcel that's contained within, et cetera.
Good information. So folks are excited about this. Larry, how do we access your data?
Well, if the question is how would we deliver it to you, two principal ways. One would be in what we would say in bulk, so it would be delivered in file form. A lot of our clients want data in that way, but we also have access via API. So depending upon the use case, if you wanted to connect to our data by way of an API, we have a number of API endpoints that are available to be integrated into your platforms.
Great options for everyone. That's good news. Next question for you, Larry. How would you compare your data to parcel data available from Regrid?
Good question. So Regrid is a parcel data provider. They are collecting and compiling the shapes along with the attributes for those shapes. We do consume parcel data. It's an important ingredient in the build of our data. We actually use multiple parcel data providers in the build of our product. What we find is that the primary differentiation between our data and what you would get from a parcel data provider, Jeff alluded to earlier, and that is the comprehensiveness of the data, where a parcel data provider may often only be able to present one address, which is the situs address for the parcel. We will have often many addresses. If there happen to be an apartment complex within a parcel, we'll have all of the unit numbers, the primary and the secondary unit numbers for that parcel, as opposed to a singular representation of the parcel by way of the situs address.
Great. Someone would like to know the price structure that you use for the API.
The price structure for the API depends upon the specific endpoint that you're licensing. So there would be a price for the data set that we're delivering. The price would be also, there would be some consideration for the speed. If you need 50 transactions a second versus 2,500 transactions a second, that can influence the price.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, volume
sure.
comes into play, and then setup fees to get a client up and running.
Great. Jeff, a question for you. Do you maintain a level of accuracy for the various data points, such as location, ISP name, technology type, ASN, etc.?
For our data, we recognize certain attributes like address confidence that allow us to understand certain levels of confidence in a specific address, as well as geo-precision, which allows us to understand the accuracy of the coordinate placement. To the latter few elements, we currently do not recognize ISP technology types or internet speeds at a given BSL. However, others are using certain data forms like 477 or other third-party providers, and the accuracy of our coordinates allows for a kind of a flush join to that.
What is the main thing to consider when evaluating data providers, Larry?
Well, number one, their reputation.
Mm-hmm.
There are a lot of recent entrants, so make sure you're partnering with someone who has a track record of building, supporting, and improving their data for a long period of time. Number two, interrogate the sources of data that they're using. Not all data products are the same, and the way that you can really make sure that you know the difference is to probe to make sure you understand the source material that's going into the product. And then again, a track record of success. Make sure that they have clients that can provide you not just recent experience, but years of experience. People who do data recognize that, we want clients for life. And so I would say that one of the things that we are very pleased with is the fact that we have clients that have been with us for 20 years, and we love to be able to provide those as reference. So make sure you can get a really good reference on the data provider that you're considering.
Great advice. Thank you so much. We appreciate everyone being with us today. We hope that you will give us your feedback on the survey on the way out. Special thanks again to Jeff and Larry for sharing their expertise along with Mark's help with the logistics. We hope that you will go make it a great day. Tell a friend about G73 Data Solutions and Directions Magazine. Thanks, everybody.